When it is necessary to work under camouflage, as is usually the case with field artillery, the flat top is used instead of the drape. From the high altitude at which enemy observation planes normally fly, it is very effective concealment. A flat top is a garnished fish net erected upon a wire frame. It must be about 3 times the dimensions of the area to be covered, heavily garnished at the center and thinning out toward the edges. The materials used for the supporting frame for the 36 by 44 foot flat top are 12 poles approximately 6 feet long, 20 heavy stakes, 1/2 of a 100-pound coil number 10 gauge wire, 1 embrasure release and thimble, 5 pounds of number 16 gauge wire, a pound of 8 penny nails, and the tools required are 2 mauls or sledges, 2 pairs of pliers, and 2 hammers or hatchets. 8 trained men can erect a flat top in about 45 minutes. Additional help doesn't save time, only increases the danger of discovery from the air. The non-commissioned officer paces off the outlines of the frame and indicates the locations of the poles. For a 36 by 44 net, the wire frame should be 40 by 50 feet to allow for stretching of the net. One of the 2 long edges is placed at right angles to the direction of fire. Two nails are driven into the top of each pole. Another nail is driven into the side about 8 inches from the top. 2 teams start driving the stakes for one diagonal wire, 12 to 15 feet from the corner of the frame. With the first 2 stakes driven, a man feeds the wire from the coil to prevent tangling, while another begins to string the wire over the nails in the sides of the posts. The wire pattern, when completed, will look like this. The ends of the wires are left long enough to fasten near the top of the poles. Stakes are also driven in line with the edges of the frame and on radial lines connecting the intermediate poles. The men work clockwise around the frame. When the radial wires are all in place, they are put between the nails at the top of the poles. Then the poles are forced outward to a vertical position, which automatically tightens the wires. The ends of the wires are tied near the tops of the poles to prevent slipping. The edge wires are then run out. Having fastened and tightened them by placing them between the nails on tops of the poles, the men insert the embrasure release and thimble in the center of the long edge facing the line of fire. The nails are bent over to hold the wires. The tightness of the wires is tested at the center of the frame. Here again is the completed flat top system. The folded net is placed on the center of the frame and unrolled on the long axis. The men then unfold it over the heavy wire so that the slit is on the side of the direction of firing. Next, it is fastened to the edges of the frame with short pieces of number 16 wire. When the net has been fully tightened, the flat top is ready for use. The howitzer is brought into position and prepared for action. The working area under the central part of the flat top should be enclosed to remind the men to avoid the ground under the thinly garnished portions where they would be visible to the enemy. In order to avoid detection from an oblique view, care must be taken to break up the shadow by placing brush and other natural materials irregularly near the edges under the flat top. At night or during rain, the net is slackened so shrinkage won't damage it or the frame. The net will shrink 5 or 6 feet when wet and will stretch when it dries. At all other times, the net should be kept taut. If it is allowed to sag, the framework will show through as a distinctive spider web pattern when viewed from the air. To perform a fire mission, the slit in the net is unlaced and the embrasure opened. The use of artificial materials on desert or bare terrain makes it possible for a gun to remain effectively camouflaged until it is time for it to go into action.